Book Blitz, welcome back to Twilight, Chapter 23, The Angel. Bella is basically in a coma this whole time. She's hearing voices, and she knows eventually who these voices belong to, but basically she's bleeding out, and she's also just broken and battered and bloody, and she's got a fresh vampire bite that is basically feels like her body's on fire from the inside. Just the vampire venom is spreading through her body. And so basically she's just in horrific pain to the point where she's almost struggling to be conscious because of the pain. And so basically Edward and Emmett and everybody arrived and they just destroy James. We don't see it actually happen, but James just gets completely destroyed by all these different vampires and just torn limb from limb. And they start a fire to start burning up his limbs, because that's the only way to kill a vampire completely, is to tear it apart and set it on fire. And so as all this is going on, Carlisle and Edward are watching over Bella, and Carlisle is very, delicately using his medical profession to try and find out what's wrong with her, what needs to be fixed. Is she okay? What's, how are her vitals doing? All this different stuff. And Edward is just miserable the whole time. He's just desperately hoping that she's going to be all right. And they find out that she was bitten, and that the venom is now going through her body. And Carlisle basically tells Edward, look, this is up to you. The only way, you either let her become a vampire or you try to suck the venom out, but you can only do that if you think you're strong enough for it. And Edward makes the decision that he doesn't think he's strong enough, he doesn't think he can do it, but he's going to try. So Edward sucks the venom out. Bella slowly starts to feel a bit better. And the fire at least is going away, so she's at least in that way feeling a bit better. And she fades into oblivion. She just fades into the darkness, basically, and goes back into a coma. But now she's obviously no longer transforming into a vampire. So, and that's where the chapter kind of ends in the original version, and it then goes into what happens afterward in the next chapter. But I have my suspicions about how your version may be different.
Oh yeah, my version's super different, like incredibly different. So my version, she's been bitten. He's turning into a vampire, and they have to decide, what they're gonna do, and she does try to save him. She does try to suck out the blood, but Archie literally punches her. It's stop! It's already too late. It's basically, it's already basically too late. He's lost too much blood from the torture that he's been in, and the fighting that's been going on. He's too injured. She sucked out, she cannot suck out enough blood to get rid of the venom without killing him. And so, Archie's the only other option is that he becomes a vampire or he dies, basically. And even then, Edith still wants Beau to choose. And so Beau chooses vampirism in so much as one can choose when you're half awake and you've been tortured and you're burning, you know what I mean? So, and then for me, it goes into basically and they actually increase it because it was such a small bite. It was a purposefully a little peck. The process is really slow, or at least was slower. But at the same time, it took a while for them to get there. So to speed the process up, Edith's bite just makes the process go faster. Anyway, and so eventually he and I don't know how the rest. I don't know if this chapter ends this way. So this is where I don't know where Because I don't know how many chapters yours has versus how many chapters mine has, and like what each chapter is. So like
So
I could tell you how mine. You go.
to tell you, so the next chapter after this is in the original is Bella is in the hospital room and
It's recovering.
It's recovering and basically just being told everything that happened, and it's kind of the
so
that
then,
and
then that's how mine ends too. Like mine ends is like the process of vampirism has begun, and like he's instead of the fire being relieved, it's only getting worse and worse and worse.
yeah.
At least this chapter. So
That's kind of what I suspected, honestly. I kind of suspected that it was when you said that it ended here, it jogged my memory of why the gender bent version exists in the way that it does in the first place. So basically, the original Twilight book came out, I believe, in like 2005. And around 2008, there was a leak online of another Twilight related book called it's like Midnight Moon or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but like Midnight Sun, Midnight Moon, something like that. Anyway,
I think I remember that. Yeah, I actually think I remember that. Like,
yeah, so it was leaked online, and it turned out to be real. It turned out to be the first several chapters of an actual gender bent version of Twilight, told from Edward's perspective. And so it wasn't like totally gender bent like this version is, as far as I understand. It was literally Twilight from Edward's perspective, and I think that there were a number of changes that were done. I don't know exactly how it was different, but I do know that when it was leaked, Stephanie Meyer, the author, was very, very upset about it, and basically was like, okay, look, this is the first like dozen chapters of a like barely fleshed out concept that everyone is seeing now, and so it's like, okay, well, it totally killed her. Yeah, it ruined the whole point, and it totally killed her ambition for it. So then the gender bent version comes along for like the 10th anniversary, and it was, I think the original idea was that all 4 Twilight books would have had an Edward version, and that was what the original leaked book was. And so because that whole ambition was kind of killed by the leak, what we were left with was this simply a gender bent version that's kind of just an alternate version of the first book. So I kind of suspected that, when you said that it all ends in this one book, I kind of suspected it meant that, Beau would become a vampire. And I also kind of wondered if it would just take a darker turn, like maybe that,
he just straight up died. Yeah. Like
that Beau, like either Beau just straight up dies and, you kind of are left with Edith, or maybe somehow Edith was killed in the process of it all, or like she was killed trying to save Beau or something like that. Like, but you mentioned that it had kind of a happier ending. I was like, okay, so he must have been get turned by the end of it. So that's interesting though. That is quite different from the way that things play out in the original for sure.
Well, and it gets more different as we go on. So actually, I'm kind of eager to start the next thing because I can actually talk about how it gets different.
Yeah, so in that case, let's go ahead and wrap this up. So next time on Twilight, everybody, it is going to be Chapter 24, An Impasse, which is the final actual chapter in the book before the epilogue. So until then, everybody,
back, Blitz.